welcome to Negro Please. We took a week off last week for the 4th of July. I'm Dallas Scott, Hollywood Huff, Quan the producer. We have two guests, backed by popular demand, Mr. Eric Kelley.
How you doing?
And we got Shaun Johnston here because we had to have a white conservative Southern guy on the show, to give us his opinions. So much stuff going on. Where do I start this? First of all, I just want to put it out there. I don't really want to talk about them, but Jada and Will should just shut the hell up and just not be putting their business all out there and don't have sex with people who just going to tell everybody about it. Okay.
You know what? That's so annoying is because for all these years they've managed to not talk about it.
Right.
And, all the rumors flying and everything, and now all of a sudden it's just okay, let's just tell everybody. Dude, keep your business your business. I lost so much respect for them just coming out with that. You know what I mean? It's just. Right. Gosh, dude!
I want to be freaky. Be freaky.
There are a lot of freaky people.
I kind of think I'm a little freaky kind of person here. We have the green door in Vegas for a reason,
right? Yeah, and I feel like if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But that's between y'all.
Right.
And I respected the fact that no matter what was actually going on, they just refused to be public about it.
Right.
And they let that be just in their marriage, and then to come out yeah, this would happen, and now everybody's entanglement. I'm done. I just wish they didn't even give people the whole the pleasure of just knowing what was going on between them. Just keep it private, man.
Well, you just don't have to tell everything.
Exactly.
You
know what I mean?
don't. And most of the time, we don't want to hear it anyway.
Right. That's the other question is if August Alsina hadn't opened his mouth, how many people really cared?
Right.
Do we really care who's sleeping with who in Hollywood?
Right. People have their suspicions. Everybody thinks everybody's in the Illuminati anyway. So it just just let them keep thinking and just go on about your life, man. I don't know.
All right. So let's run back down your background real quick, Mr. Kelley. You are 10 years.
10 years Sheriff's Department, 10 years U.S. Marshals.
U.S. Marshals. And 35 years training people.
35 plus
shoot,
years. Yep.
All the whole
Pistols,
gamut.
Rifles, shotguns, carbines, long range, you name it, whatever it is. We're a firearms training company. That's what I do, is teach people how to use firearms correctly and well.
All right. So you train law enforcement officers?
We train civilian law enforcement and military. Mm-hmm.
Are law enforcement officers better shooters than civilians?
I would say generally no.
I asked you that question for a reason.
I really hate to say that. I mean, here's my issue with that. Okay, law enforcement people carry a gun for a living, so it is a tool. It is something that you carry with you every single day. And when we call you, we expect you to come. We hope you don't have to use it, but if you do, we expect you to be able to use it well. They qualify 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. And, you should be able to use it at any given point in time.
Right.
Because you might have to. And then on the serious side of life, you may have to use it to save not just others, but yourself.
Right.
So you would think that'd be high on the list of things to do, is to be able to use it well. Not always the case. Some of our law enforcement classes are the funniest things you've ever seen.
Wow.
And, it's horrible. It drives me crazy, to be honest. Okay? And, we generally don't yell, scream, and holler at our civilians unless that's just how you respond.
All right.
But in our law enforcement classes, oh yeah, we will yell, scream, and holler. You want me to give an example?
Sure.
Okay, we got 10 guys on the range. Here are the commands. You're going to fire 10 rounds, reload, fire 10 rounds. You're going to fire 20 rounds total. When I tell you to fire, you're going to fire, do your reload, then you're going to done. That means 20 rounds should be on the paper. It's not that hard. 15 yards, not that hard. Should be able to do that in your sleep. So, ready on the right, ready on the left, everybody ready? Okay, go ahead, fire. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody does all their fire. Reload. Boom, 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 boom. They do their thing. Okay, everybody stop, clear, check, whatever. Put the guns away, all's good. All right? You start looking at all the targets, and then one of my instructors calls me over and goes, oh, dude, you got to come see this. And I come over and I go, what's up? And I go, what? Did he not shoot? Oh, no, he shot. He fired 20 rounds? He fired 20 rounds. Why are there no holes on the paper?
Wow.
And this is
why are there no holes on the paper? So then we make everybody walk up, check the targets. Everybody should have 20 holes in the paper. Anybody's got more than 20, We need to find out who that is because this guy can't hit shit. So it's a problem. And then, he looks at the instructor that's with him and he looks at me and he goes, why you got to call me out? I go, dude, you just fired 20 rounds at a paper target at 15 yards and hit nothing.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Who's paying you to work? I don't understand. So, I mean, is it all? No. And do we have a lot of guys that do a really good job? Absolutely. Do they all? No. And it's kind of irritating for somebody like me who teaches people how to shoot. And there are range officers, range masters, and trainers in every department everywhere. So, what's up with that?
No, the reason I ask you is because Steve always brings up the point that police officers are trained to be in situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you train to be in a situation where you have to, whatever the situation is where you feel like you have to pull a gun. But civilians are often asked to act better than the police officer when they are the ones who don't have training. When it comes to, like, you're put in a situation where somebody puts a gun in your face and
you're supposed to remain calm as a civilian when you have a trained officer who's yelling and screaming and pointing a gun at you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
I don't think it's, obviously the police officers have considerable more training than a civilian, unless the civilians, like you are, serious about it and you get your time in and you try to get as much as you can. But I think it's that civilians come under more scrutiny because a lot of people feel like civilians shouldn't have guns. You have the police, which they're not always there.
Right.
So then on the other side of the coin, when the police officers do show up, you expect them to be in control. You expect them to know what to do, what to say, how to handle a situation because they've been through hours and hours and hours and thousands of hours worth of training. And then what you see doesn't always match what your expectation is. And I think that's really what the big deal is. So, does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. Yeah. So we're going to talk about a couple police shootings today. One, the three of us have actually talked about before, me, you, and Steve. And I think listening to you from a police officer's standpoint, you kind of changed our mind a little bit about what we thought of the shooting.
Okay.
So we're going to start with Mike Brown.
Okay.
Caused a mess in Ferguson.
Yes.
Essentially kicked off the Black Lives Matters movement.
Yes.
A lot of people felt that was an unjustified shooting.
Yes.
You do not think that?
No, I know for a fact it wasn't a justified shooting, But here's the thing. A lot of time passed after the incident happened, which is a problem. And when you don't tell people what actually took place, then they start to make their own shit up. And they come up with their own ideas about what happened, or they hear about it from other people without the correct info. Like one of the things that happened, a lot of people don't realize, is that Mike Brown actually opened the door, got in the car with the officer, and tried to kill him. The first two shots were fired inside the patrol car. Okay, a lot of people think that this officer rolled up on him as he was trying to leave. He turned around. There was a chase. Shots were fired. That's not where it started. It started with them walking across the street. An officer had no idea what had happened previously. And he said, hey, you guys got to get out of the street. And, we had discussions about what the actual wordage was used. Because it might not have been,
we know
correct.
that he didn't say it the way he said he said it.
Sir, please, sir. Sir, please, sir. Exactly. Don't walk in the street because you might get hit. So that probably didn't happen.
Right.
Okay. The response that he got was Mike Brown's big guy opens the door to the patrol car, jumps in the car, tries to kill him. Okay. First two shots were fired inside. One went through the hand, one went through the roof. Okay. Now, I will tell you just me personally, my thoughts are if you open my patrol car door, jump in, try to kill me, you will be dead in that car. You won't have to worry about what happened out on the street because I will have ruined the car with your blood. Okay?
Right.
Because that's not going to happen. So he fired two shots. Mike Brown got out of the car and started to leave. Then the officer gets out. Mike Brown's leaving. Words are exchanged. He turns around and comes back, which is why when you look at the autopsy and what happened, and Mike Brown's big guy and the officer, can't remember what his name is right now, is a short guy. Yeah. So the angles are up. And, they were like, his hands were up. And he shot him when his hands were up. My hands are up, blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't actually the truth. He was actually on his way forward to come back at the officer when he was shot, which is why the angles were there. And that's the thing. People don't understand Mike Brown was coming back after him. So the officers thought, I'm not going to say he was right or wrong in terms of what happened. I'm going to say the facts are he was coming back towards the officer. The officer thought his life was in danger, and he shot him. Okay?
Right.
Now, had the police collected the videos, which they collected a lot but not all, had they come out with a statement, explained what happened, why it happened, would there have been upset? Yes. Was it another black man killed? Yes. Was it a police officer who was white that shot him? Yes. All of those are facts.
Right.
However, why did the officer shoot him, and why did it take so damn long to get that information out there? Okay.
And so, and here's the thing too, because there are certain things obviously that they tell the truth about, but then there are other things like we talked about, like the words that are used. It's like,
Right.
come on, bro, we know you're lying. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then there are certain things like some of the things that they said it might have happened, but not exactly the way they said it happened.
And it didn't make
You
sense.
know what I mean? Right. And it doesn't make sense. So even when we see a video or we see like, okay, like some of this might be true, or we hear another side of the story or something, it's still hard for us, just as people in a community, to believe it, because even when they're telling the truth, they're mixing in lies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like you don't have to justify how bad Mike Brown was or how good this
Right.
cop was. We want the truth.
Yeah.
But
Here's
everything
what
that they
happened.
give us is this narrative
Yeah.
on how great this cop was just doing his job and being perfect and super respectful, so on and so forth. And then on the other hand, you have Mike Brown, who was the incredible Negro who had just smoked some weed and became super strong, and he was a giant and unstoppable force. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't William the Refrigerator Perry marching down the street on some 100-pound young lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they give us all of these lies that kind of mix in with the truth, to where it's, even if we hear that story and we agree with it, we're still like, but you're lying to us.
Well, there's always
You know?
questions. And
Right.
you know, part of it is because public relations job is to give you enough to get the information out,
Mhm.
but not enough to ruin, let's say, a case or some sort of a legal proceeding that's going to follow up after that because of this incident.
Okay.
So, you know, some departments are pretty good about it. I'll throw a little props out at Metro, because sometimes when they're involved in a shooting, usually they come out relatively quickly. They give you a basic explanation of what happened. They try not to
And
throw in all the
when he says
additionals.
Metro, you're
Las
specifically
Vegas Metro PD.
Yeah, Las Vegas
Okay.
Metro PD.
So we're talking about Las Vegas Metro PD. Okay, and you know, not to pump them up or down, but a lot of times they're pretty good about that. Now you go back to like Ferguson. All right, they waited a long time just to even say what happened.
Right.
So the people in the neighborhood, trust me, somebody gets shot, everybody knows like within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and then now with social media, you know, the video's up and people are talking and, you know, they're texting back and forth.
My
and
Facebook was
Snapchat
blowing
and
up,
everything's
and
blowing
Mike
up.
Brown's body was still in the street.
Yes.
And I'm hearing about it out here.
And,
Like, yeah.
and that's exactly what happened. So what do? You need to explain what happened. Now, if what the officer did was wrong, like in the case with the George Floyd and this and that, and everybody saw it like freaking instantaneously,
Yeah.
you get out in front of that right off the bat. Get his ass off the street, get him locked up, you know, if it's maybe not arrested, but locked up, and then you start getting the damage control out. Why, what, how, when. And if it was obviously wrong, then you're going to come out and you're going to say, we're investigating this, internal affairs, professional
Right.
standards, whatever it is they call it, depending on where you're at. They're involved immediately because we got questions about what happened. There's a lot of videos circulating around. We'll have an update here shortly.
Right.
Okay. So you kill that need to leave your house and go down there and tear shit up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to have people that are going to do that anyway? Yes, you are.
Right.
Because some people are looking for an excuse. But in terms of the incident itself, if you can give enough information out there to let people know, why did this incident happen? It happened because, and just as an example, he was involved in an incident that happened in a store. The officer was not aware of that. The officer contacted him as he was crossing the street, asked him to get out of the street. Okay? Words were exchanged. The next thing you know, Mike Brown opens the door, jumps in, tries to kill the officer. We know this because we have video, we have audio. 2 shots were fired in the car, 1 through Mike Brown's hand.
Right.
That's not disputed. We know that.
Right.
Then we know that he got out of the car because we have video from here and there. Then we know he came back towards the officer and charged him, in which case the officer pulled his gun back out and shot Mike Brown. Okay, now, are we happy because it happened? No. Is it a black man that got shot by a white cop? Yes.
Right.
Is that a good thing? No. But what's the context that goes with it? if you at least give enough out there so that people can think about it, the majority of the people, and let's say 50% will go, man, that's crazy. Is that the kind of stuff people have to put up with it? Not always immediately. This white cop just got out of his car and decided, today I'm going to shoot this Negro because it's something to do, right? And if you say nothing and have no information, and it goes on for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, everybody knows, like you said, you heard about George Floyd instantaneously. You heard about Mike Brown instantaneously because social media travels hella fast. Something happens right now on the strip, your phones will be blowing up right here in the studio. You're like, oh, shit, they had another one. What happened? Because that's how fast stuff travels. So public relations, and you can, the sheriff, police, chief, commandant, lieutenant, whoever's in charge, they want to get something out there, and they're careful about what they say because of, obviously, the investigation pending, which is why I always say that.
Right.
And, it's a normal thing. Officers were involved in a shooting, Officer John Smith and David Jones.
Right.
Okay, placed on administrative leave.
I feel like every time I hear there's a police-involved shooting in Las Vegas, like within minutes I hear that these guys are placed on administrative leave.
Because that's what's supposed to happen. We're gonna scoop up the officers, remove their guns because they got to be examined to make sure everything's good. We're gonna take them someplace, debrief them, get them nice.
I'm glad you said that. Debrief them, right?
Of course.
But isn't part of debriefing the?
You can say, get your story straight.
The
look on your eyes.
I don't want to say go in there and figure out what the lies are, but let's get our story straight, right?
Okay, so get your story straight means a lot of things.
Right.
Okay? Now, I'm not going to tell you that means we're going to lie so that it sounds better, because I'm going to tell you another thing, right? You remember this in the class. CSI will get you.
Yeah.
So even if you're the police and you lie about what happens and CSI comes in, they are real quick to go, that's not what happened.
But even as a civilian, no, I have, and I'm not sure if it's every state, but I have like 72 hours before I have to give a statement if I shoot somebody, right? Or is a certain period of time?
It depends.
Okay.
That's technically not correct. You talking about law enforcement or civilian?
No, myself as a civilian. If I'm in the street and I shoot somebody,
they're going to ask you. They're going to literally start asking you questions just as soon as they can start asking you questions. Why?
Right.
Because they want to hear what you say right now. Which is why people typically say lawyer, shut the hell up, STFU, done. Right? Because you have no idea what you're going to say. I say this all the time.
Right.
The best show on TV would be 911 tapes.
Yeah.
911, what's your emergency? Okay, I just shot somebody. Okay, what else you going to tell them?
Yeah.
Maybe who you are, what you look like, this and that.
Yeah.
And the 911 operator's job is to ask you questions. And people will say things like, these two guys tried to kill us. I shot them both. They're laying on the street. Get the police here quick. Okay? And then the operator may say something like, well, are they alive? Are they dead? And then, people will say dumb shit like, well, I don't. Should I kill him? Would that make would that make the case better? I mean, what should I do next? I mean, because I could go back across the street and shoot him again if you want. And it sounds funny and you hate to say it, but I mean, if you listen to some of the things that people say, it is hilarious. Which is why they generally tell you shut the hell up. Right.
Yeah.
Now, is there a time limit? No, because after the police show up, and they secure the scene, this and that, they're going to start trying to ask you questions immediately. Right. Whether you answer them or not is up to you. So there is no grace period time where, okay, time out. You can't say shit to me for 24 hours.
Right.
That is not the case.
Right.
Because you're going to have the police officers trying to find out what's going on because that's their job.
Right.
Right. Then you're going to be, they'll be canvassing the neighborhood.
But they can't ask you any questions while you're getting medical treatment, though. Right?
Okay. So what's always best to do, and most police will offer it to you, but you should request it yourself, is always get medical treatment just as soon as you can. So the police show up on the scene, I need an ambulance. I need a paramedics. Why? First of all, it's a traumatic incident. You just shot somebody.
Right.
Okay, so are you thinking straight? Probably not. And maybe you think you're doing okay, but what about the people you're with who are now losing their damn mind because some of them may not know you had a gun. Now you just shot somebody.
Right.
And even though they were trying to kill, the bad guys were trying to kill you or whatever, there's still a lot going on.
Yeah.
So if you get medical treatment first and then figure out what you're going to do, it will help you. It's always a good thing to do it. A lot of police departments, they want you to get medical treatment, because if you don't get medical treatment and start answering questions, first thing the lawyer's going to say is, so how come my boy Hollywood didn't get no medical treatment? I mean, you knew he was upset.
Yeah.
He's flipping out. He looked like he was going to pass out. So you interviewed him how he was not in his correct state of mind. So basically everything that you just said is tossed out the window. So a lot of departments will say, don't start talking to him. Or what they'll say in some departments is, we don't want the police officers interviewing people that are involved in a shooting. We want to wait till the investigators or the detectives, the ones we like to call the murder police, we want the murder police to come in and do that investigation, because that's what they're paid to do.
Okay. Now going back to like when the police get their debriefing, are they talking to the murder police, or who are they talking to?
So it depends on the department, because every department has that, but generally it'll be their supervisors, managers, whoever's in charge. So let's say police officers, it'll probably be on the low end, probably a sergeant. Generally it's a lieutenant or a captain or somebody else.
Okay.
Sometimes internal affairs professional standards will be there. Sometimes nobody says shit till a PBA rep, your police union rep, comes to the scene. And a lot of times they'll go that route because, again, the officers have rights and things like that. They want to make sure they don't go sideways, because a police union is a powerful thing. So, but every department has legitimate steps on what you do, okay? But every officer that's involved in a shooting everywhere, even Podunk, middle of nowhere, Mississippi. I had to throw it in there. Right?
I was waiting.
They have rules and regs on what you're supposed to do immediately. Seize the gun, secure them from everyone else, so that you don't have people trying to run up, talk to them, and then do their debriefing. And a debriefing is a debriefing. What happened? So that they know, okay? It is not, all right, man, we need to get the story straight now. Now, is that something that could happen? Maybe it is. But I will tell you right now, administrative leave is a normal thing that happens in every single shooting. And it's supposed to be. Protects the person that was involved in the shooting on both sides.
Right.
Okay. Make sure medical attention's there, because, again, you don't want to have your department look bad. Maybe this officer is not a good officer, and maybe he did things that were wrong. So the police department wants to know exactly what's going on. But on the other side, the officer did everything 100% right. You don't want him on the scene. You don't want people trying to talk to him, because, he might say something, that he shouldn't. And again, it's all about liability. So you want to make sure you do everything the right way for the right reasons. You do that. And typically what happens is, generally, depending on the department's policies, it could be 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, but it shouldn't be really beyond that. There's going to be a briefing. Your public relations person, or if it's a major thing, it could be, it could be a sheriff or a chief of police or a major or a commandant, whatever. Will come out and make a statement about what happened. Yesterday at the corner of Warm Springs and Las Vegas Boulevard, there was a shooting involving an officer. The basic, gist of the incident was road rage incident. The officers contacted the vehicle that was causing a problem. They stepped out, fired at the officers. Officers returned fire. One person's injured. One person's dead. They've been transported to the hospital. So-and-so and so-and-so, or usually not the names, but these two officers involved from the Southwest Division are placed on administrative leave while we sort this out.
Okay.
Right.
So
that's pretty normal.
I got one more Mike Brown question, because this to this day still bothers me, right? So, after Mike Brown is shot, Darren Wilson was the officer, right?
Right.
It's been kind of made public that the first phone call he made was either to his police chief or to the union rep. It was to one of those two people. Why didn't he call an ambulance? Like, why was Mike Brown's body in the street for hours?
I do not know exactly what calls were made. Okay, but you're talking about phone calls, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can guarantee you, without knowing 100%, I can guarantee you all of that took place on the radio.
Okay.
So, shots fired, man down, location such and such, blah, blah, blah. That rolls ambulances, paramedics, whatever you want. Right. That rolls them immediately. So he would not use his phone to make that call. So if the first two phone calls he made were to his chief, it was probably because they said, you need to call somebody. And it's probably not the chief. Generally, it's going to be whoever the investigator is.
Yeah.
But more than likely, and you know, that's a small department in St. Louis County. But generally, you know, it's going to be to the PBA rep, the union rep.
Okay.
Okay, because everything else is taking place on the radio. Because by the time he's got time to get his phone out and make that call, there's probably 30 cops there from 3 different agencies. Because Ferguson's tiny, and it's in St. Louis County, so you can bet your ass that St. Louis City's
definitely
there,
like St. Louis County was
and then
there.
the Highway Patrol.
Ferguson. I think the Highway Patrol.
Because you typically don't investigate your own officers' shootings unless, you know, especially with a department that small.
Right.
You will have outside help. Why? Because then the look of impropriety is lessened.
Yeah.
So if the first 2 calls he made were to the chief or somebody in the upper management staff, or the or his union rep, that would be consistent with whatever their policy is.
So what could have happened that no ambulance showed up?
So sometimes what happens is, especially if it's a volatile scene, especially in a situation like this with, you know, even though that it really hadn't kicked off at the time, you got a white cop shot a black man, he's laying in the street right now. Sometimes the call is made, we're not going to move anything until we have forensics here and we know every single thing we possibly can before we can do that. Sometimes they'll cover the body up and let it stay. They usually don't leave it uncovered, but again, anything that you do to the body causes, you know, potentially evidence tampering.
It was just so many things that didn't seem consistent with what we learned is supposed to happen, or that we've kind of seen happen,
I would say,
in previous shootings. You know what I mean?
I would say it has to do with whatever their policies and procedures are.
Okay.
Their policy may be, do not move the body until coroners arrived on the scene.
Okay.
Management's been notified. Families have been notified, meaning the officers, so they can get them out. Officers been removed from the scene. We've secured X amount of distance from everything.
Right.
We've had a chance to, you know, interview all the witnesses and all that. And you'll notice that most police departments, first thing they do when they show up is they got somebody with cameras. Yeah. And they're filming everybody because they're looking for, you know, good guys, bad guys, who was there. So when they go back and go, listen, we need to talk to you about what you saw when you were there. Man, I didn't see shit. I wasn't there. I don't know nothing. Man, I got you on tape here, you know?
Right.
So I need to know what you saw because this is important. You know, you should want to give us that information. So they do that. But there is no rush to get the body off the street. And some people say, oh, well, that's just horrible. People can see this person laying dead on the street. But a lot of it has to do with the policies and procedures.
Okay.
And depending on the size of the department and what the department's rules and regs are, that's probably what, you know, what they did. Now, for the amount of time that was out there, maybe that was not consistent with their policies. And again, that's something that they would have to answer to because it's inflammatory.
I just feel like, obviously, like if a cop shoots somebody, the next step should be, okay, can we save this person's life? Like the cop had to shoot him to stop him, right?
And I don't know for a fact. I mean, I would really be surprised. Okay, I don't know for a fact, but I know I can ask, right? I can know, and he'll probably be watching this later. Right. And I can literally ask and see that question. But if someone's been shot, they're going to render aid. So I seriously doubt that they shot him and then just let him lay there and bleed to death if he was still alive while they stood back over by the car and did nothing. I'd be really, really surprised if that happened because, you know, you still are there to do certain things.
Right.
And, you know, I'd be stunned to find out that they shot this guy and just let him lay out there and die. And if you remember, I'm going to go back real quick. The North Hollywood shootout, and I think we talked a little bit about that, just like amongst us. The 3 guys, fully armored, Kevlar, armored rounds, they left those guys out in the street. And actually, one of them, the last one that died, you know, he literally bled to death out in the street. Right. Nobody would go near him. There's a big lawsuit, a lot of litigation stuff. And that was one of the big questions is like, why didn't anybody go do anything about him?
Right.
Well, the scene wasn't clear. There was a lot still going on. So that did happen. And there was litigation because of that. Right. So in this case, that was not the case.
Right.
However, somebody had to make that call that, you know, and I'm sure, I mean, I'd be stunned to find out that no first aid or anything was done initially. I don't see that happening. I think I would have heard that too.
Yeah. I only asked that part because I remember from what and I could be wrong. I have to go look at it again. But I remember all the images showing his body in the street. He was still face down.
Okay.
So
because that's how he went down.
Right, and I would think that's how he went down. So if there was aid rendered, I would think, CPR, some sort of first aid to a gunshot wound or something like that. Maybe roll his body over to do that.
But if you but on the opposite though, like if you went up to render aid and you couldn't find a pulse or anything at that point,
maybe
if the decision
I don't know.
decision was made that there was nothing that could be done,
right?
Okay, and I'm a if it, right?
Right, yeah.
If the decision was made when he approached him after shooting him, he was dead. Okay,
right.
There was no question about the fact he was dead. Then the next thing is scene preservation.
Okay.
So if he realized he was dead, if there was I hate to say it like this, but when you get there and he's literally like, he's dead.
Yeah.
George Floyd,
and
he was dead.
Well, now, okay, so now, all right, George Floyd, might not have been dead like instantaneously. He lost consciousness and went down. The question with the George Floyd was a little bit different because they theoretically, choked him out or he lost consciousness or whatever.
Yeah.
The bottom line is their assumption that when he went out, he died there. We do not know. He could have gone out and been semi-conscious on his way to unconscious, but the questions, did come back about why didn't they do other things?
When the paramedics showed up, they just put him on the ground. Like there's no of all the videos, there's no videos of them giving him a bag or performing CPR on him or anything. They just picked him up, put him in the gurney, and put him in the truck in the back of the ambulance, and he was off. There's dozens of videos out there, but none of those videos actually show them rendering aid to George Floyd.
Well, there probably are videos, but we just don't have them.
Yeah.
And their thought was get him off the ground and into the ambulance so they could get working on him. And they'll still work on him generally they'll work on him until they get to the hospital if they know for a fact they're just they're absolutely gone. Somebody has to make that call though. Generally the officers don't make that call unless you get there, and I mean it's obvious because of the injuries are so significant that
half his head is blown off already.
Well, if it's I'm just okay. So you went there, but let's just say if they're significant enough that there's literally nothing else that can be done. Yeah. Okay. Then the next thing they do is scene preservation. Right. So you're not going to do things that are going to cause cast out, disparagement.
Right. Okay.
So, but a lot of it has to do again with the policies and procedures of the department, which is why lawyers. That's what they do. First thing they do is go, so his body was out there for 24 hours. Why? Yeah. Because your policy is A, B, C, and D. Right. Why did you not do that in this case? And then there's a question that has to be answered there.
Okay.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's bring our right-wing conservative in here.
Here we go.
Shaun and I have conversations every week. Generally, you'll watch the show. And then you'll text me at like 3:00 in the morning, and you'll be like, "Okay, but what about this? And what about this?" So one of our long conversations, and I'm glad Eric, it's not coincidence you guys are both here at the same time.
Right.
There's no coincidence here. Shaun and I got into discussion about Rayshard Brooks, and you felt that it was a justified shooting. You felt that don't let me put words in your mouth. You explain it.
I felt like whenever you put the officer in these spots, it's bad. I don't feel anybody should die. I don't feel like the guy should not go home to his kids. But I also feel like I've never been pulled over and attacked an officer. I've never gotten in a heated discussion. No, I have gotten in a heated discussion with an officer. But I've never like to the point where like I understand like when they say to do it, like I'm doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So, like we were talking before, like I would think the emphasis in whether it's right, wrong, it shouldn't be this way, for a black person would be like more likely to, like if I had a black kid, if I was black and I was raising black kids, I'd be like, listen, when they tell you to do something, just do it because they're ready to shoot you. Whether it's right, wrong, or different, like we're not blind. Like if you're logical, no matter how you feel about cases, like we watched George Floyd. Right? We can all say that's terrible, right? Like that, it's just it's a shame that it took all this time, all these years, for something like that to come on TV for a white person to go, man, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand. Like this is and but when it comes to that case, I was just like, what the hell's he doing? Like, just they're telling you you're under arrest. Just put your hands behind your back and go.
So
But-
we've actually had this conversation, so we're going to get into your side of it. And Steve and I had this on a previous show, and my thought was, there's a couple things, and I'm bringing this up because you've said something to the extent of this. I think we both agreed when we talked earlier in this. He should have went to jail, right? He was drunk driving. That's there shouldn't be. He gets to go home that night. No, like
because there are a lot of people who are saying like, oh, he was just drunk. Why couldn't somebody just give him a ride home? And
no,
it's just like,
you were drunk driving.
No,
like, that's a crime.
That's police
a felony.
policy. Like, drunk driving is a serious thing. People get killed from drunk drivers all the time. Granted, he pulled over to try to sober up or whatever. Maybe he was just so drunk he thought he was in his own driveway.
Right.
I mean, it's 101 things, but he was drunk and he was supposed to go to jail here. So I don't fault the officers up to this point, right? He's supposed to go to jail. They're putting him in handcuffs. And then that's when hell breaks loose, basically.
Right.
So there's a couple ways to look at it. I'm just gonna flat out say it. The first officer that shows up had a nice conversation with him. Asked him to pull his car over, had a nice conversation with him. He told him what had been going on with his family and the birthday party and all that. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. Okay. But it was a cordial conversation, no issues, no drama. Was he drinking and driving? Yes. Was he passed out in the car? Yes. Okay. So that's not in dispute. Okay. Here's what in dispute. The first officer seemed to be handling the situation just fine. It all changed when the second officer showed up.
Right.
My question is, why did the second officer have to come in and take the tone with what he did? Okay.
Right.
And there was a lot of words exchanged, this and that. I mean, he literally could have shown up. The first officer could have said, oh, yeah, DUI, man, just going to jail. They could have caught him right there before he had a chance to think about it. Because, listen, and we've all been in this, I don't know if you have. We've all been in
Right.
Okay. I don't want to go wipe. I don't want to go wipe away from Mississippi, but I'm just saying we've all been there. Most of us have.
Right.
And if you have a situation like that, you pretty well know whether you're going to arrest somebody or not. So when he got him out of the car, had a little discussion with me, he could have told him right then and there as the second officer was pulling up. He's like, man, you were passed out in the Wendy's, car was running, DUI. Take him out of the car, put the cuffs on before he even had a chance to know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Dude's going to jail before he has the chance to think about it. Because think about this. Wait. So you mean I might be going to jail? You mean I can't just do this but I'm not that far from my house. So all of these words are going through his mind. All of these things are going through his mind. And in his mind, he's starting to think, hey now, I don't know if I really want to do this. And, but if you come in, and I'm not saying, heavy-handed, hardball, knock him out, whatever. But if you made the decision when the man got out of the car with the first officer, and he knew that dude was going to go to jail, right? He should have threw the cuffs on then. By the time our boy, Brooks, knew what was going on, he'd have been cuffed.
Yeah.
So when the second officer came, there were words.
Right.
A lot of words. And a lot of confrontation. And the other officer
but that was
wasn't even
created
standing
by
with
the
him.
second officer.
It was, and this is what I'm talking about. The whole second officer, there was a lot of stuff going on. All of that didn't really have to take place because he'd been hooked up on his way to the car long before that happened. Okay, flip it over to the George Floyd thing. George Floyd was on the side of the building in cuffs, and it was done.
Yeah.
It was done.
Right.
Why was it the big push to bring him over here, put him on the ground, knee him down, and do all this? That's another question that's got to be answered.
Right.
I would like to know, because to me, it was done. And, listen, if you're going to arrest somebody, you arrest them now. If you say, hey, man, I'm going to arrest you. Okay, I'm thinking about arresting you. I'm not sure if I'm going to arrest you. And this goes on and on. People in their mind, they start going,
Yeah.
I don't really know if I want to be arrested.
Yeah.
And if I get a chance to dip out, I'm a dip. That's where you get the rabbit. We look for them all the time. I mean, those are like signs. You get that guy. I do this all the time. I look at people. I go, oh, he about to run, and they go, you think so too? He's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, then how you know? I'm like, how'd you not know? I said, could you not see what he was doing?
Yeah.
If you let this go on too long, people start thinking, man, I'm not going back to jail.
Yeah.
I'm not going to prison. I'm not doing anything. If he had got him out of the car, hooked him up right then before the second officer showed up, or as soon as the second officer showed up, and he said, "Yep, we're gonna hook this one up," it would have been done. Rayshard Brooks would have never had a chance to do anything.
But couldn't, if the second officer would have just let the rapport between him and the first officer go?
That's the other option.
Right? Like, because you and I are having this decent conversation, and I've got this rapport with you, and you're drunk, but I'm like, you know what, man? Like, I appreciate the way you're talking to me now, but I need you to turn around. We're going to hook, you're going to be arrested.
And police have latitude too. I mean, literally, no joke. They could have said, call your sister.
Right.
Have your sister come down here.
Yeah.
Take him home.
Right.
We're going to leave the car here. Come get it tomorrow. They have the latitude to do so. Okay.
Right.
Nothing says you must arrest immediately.
Yeah.
It says that, does he meet the burden of making an arrest? Absolutely. Intoxicated, passed out, vehicle's running, keys are in ignition, absolutely. Is it DUI? 100% out of 100%. Do they have to make that call? Not really. There's nothing that mandates them to do that. So could he have said, hey, I'm going to call my boy Hollywood, right, and have him come get me? Well, where's he at? Man, he's like 6 blocks away. Get him on the phone. Get you on the phone, you're like, I can be there in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Can I get my boy so he don't go to jail? Get him and get the hell out. Come get the car tomorrow. Could you do that? Absolutely. And the way it started going, all the way up till where the first officer said, hey, man, it's going to be okay. We're going to help you out. You remember hearing that?
Yeah.
Then the second officer showed up and went into, asshole mode, and you don't have to be a dick to be a cop, but a lot do. And here's the thing. There's always somebody out there that will whoop your ass. Why are you trying to find that person? I mean, seriously. I can't tell you how many times, you roll up on somebody, and you have to, you're like, I gotta arrest that guy. Man, that guy's 6'5", 275 pounds. Woo! Can I get a little backup over here? I mean, it depends on the situation and all that, but you also have to be smart enough to make that call. And a call has to be a wise call. I mean, I have arrested tons of people, like shitloads of people. It's ridiculous. And it's funny because people go, I don't even know how you arrest all them damn people. Well, first of all, I'm a pretty good guy, right? So I'm gonna try to talk to you and help you out, whatever. Now, if you want to go, sideways and get it on. I mean, I'm a little old now, but I'm not dead yet. So if you want to go, we can go.
All right.
But the thing about it is that you have to make an option, and not everybody needs to have their ass whooped to be put in cuffs.
Right.
But that's part of training, though, right? We're going back.
We don't train people to whoop your ass, put you in cuffs. We train you to take control of the situation. And I say this when I train people. I teach defensive tactics, use of force, legal issues, and all that stuff. I say this: who's running this show? And who's running this show means a lot of things. Okay, am I in control of the situation? Yes. So you're going to do what I say. No, I'm not. Are you sure about that? Because I'm pretty sure I will make you do that. Now, does that mean I'm going to whoop your ass? No, but I will get you in cuffs. And if you escalate the amount of force used, I will escalate the amount of force in order to put you in cuffs. Okay, and that's doing a dance. But do you always have to go that route? And remember, force is broken off into levels, and you can see on the podcast, you have, let's say, level 5 of force, and you have level 1 of force.
Right.
Okay, if the guy is like, Rayshard Brooks, and you come in at level 1, okay, then you can talk to him, have the conversations and this and that. But if he's at level 1 and you're at level 5, you show up, pump rounds into him, and he hasn't done anything, said anything, that's going to be a problem. And why did you jump from here to here so quickly? So it should be somewhere in the midst of, based on what the situation is. And in this case, the first officer was more like a level 1, or you could go level 2, whatever, but he was in control and everything seemed to be going. The second officer came in, and as soon as he felt like he was now running the show, I'm in charge. Then you could see it going downhill. And then the next thing you know, he's trying to put cuffs on this guy without control, which is why the tussle happened, and both guys are getting, he's a big boy, Sometimes, you got to look in the mirror and go, yeah, I don't know. not today, right? And you have to think about those things. And a lot of times I think what happens is you get so wound up in the adrenaline and everything that's going on that, you maybe do something that might not be the most prudent thing to do at the time. So that's what happens.
Do you think with this cop, this officer, he gets charged with murder?
The second one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Second one is charged with murder for shooting Rayshard Brooks in the back. Do you think that his attitude, which is on the videos, do you think that played a part into him being charged even after Rayshard Brooks has the taser, so to speak?
Okay, so I'm going to say this.
All
Okay.
right.
Here's the problem that I see. I believe most of this is political, and there's a lot of bias and all this, and they're trying to say we did something.
Right.
Right.
Okay, but if you go back 1 year, almost 1 year, damn near to the day,
Yeah.
there's an identical situation that happened in Atlanta
Mhm.
with the same people from the prosecutor's office that are charging these guys, where a taser was used in the same manner. Nobody went to jail. Officers weren't charged. Completely different outcome.
Was
Right.
the
But the
person that used the taser killed?
Yes.
Okay.
So almost the identical situation, and the prosecutor that was, and I can't remember what his name is, black guy that's running that deal. He's the same prosecutor on the other case a year prior.
Right.
So this incident happened this year. Cops are going to prison, murder. This incident happened last year. Cops did not go to prison, murder. Now, I'm not trying to say, that these guys are better than these guys. I'm literally saying two identical incidences. One went one way, one went the other. Why is that? Is it because now we're trying to make a point? We're trying to say we did something, whereas, and honestly, they it seems to me like they jumped a little quick when the investigation is still ongoing, but charges are pending. How's that happen?
I think that's still like, so as a cop, you're a former police officer, a former U.S. Marshal, Sheriff's Office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your perspective, and then my perspective, never being in law enforcement, I think something you mentioned is part of the reason why everybody is so outraged that somewhere across the board in law enforcement, whether it has to do with race, whether it has to do with economic status, whether it has to do with just location, there is a lack of consistency when it comes to dealing with certain people at certain times.
Well,
right?
I think what's happening now is that it's showing up. So and again, when I talked about earlier, policies and procedures, some departments will do things based on whatever that they think is the best thing to do for their department or agency. Others do not. Is training inconsistent? Absolutely, it's training is inconsistent because what they do in Mississippi is not what they do in Missouri, which is not what they do in Chicago, which is not what they do in New York, okay, or L.A. or Portland or Seattle. I mean, so there are certain inconsistencies in let's say policies and procedures, but the overall goal is still the same, and the way it's taught for the most part is still the same. The variations on the theme typically come with the officer, you know, and the question is always, why did the officer do this versus doing that? And the question is, what level of fear was he at? What level of training does he have? Is this a situation he's been in before? Was he waiting for more backup? Did he have enough backup? Or, was he actually the initial one, like with the Rayshard Brooks? The first guy's way of handling it was different from the second guy's.
Right.
So my question would be, is if you're running, if Shaun's running the show and it seems to be working, do I need to jump into Shaun's business?
Right.
Or should I support him based on what he's doing? And I think that's another thing that's going to come out, because you have a lot of cops that, 4 cops show up, and you have one guy's maybe a newer guy, so he's going to yield to the second guy. The second guy is going to go, I'm going to run this thing. And then a third guy shows up who's got more seniority, and he may legit take over, or he may be told to take over.
Right.
And so that's the case. Now, here's where all the confusion gets in, because, one guy says, I'm going to do it this way, and it'll be just fine. Another guy says, I'm going to do it this way, and it's going to be fine. And those two differences they're not even close.
Right.
All right. So when they go back and look at it, they go, well, if we don't just let Hollywood handle this, it'd have been fine.
Yeah.
But, Shaun came up, waved Hollywood off, and beat the ass of that guy,
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, a lot of it has to do with that. So it's not always, it's not always really cut and dried. And, part of the time that, that I was working, I was on some of those review boards where police officers have to come before the state post commission, and we review every single thing we did, and we decide, you're fired, dude.
Yeah.
You'd be lucky if you don't get charges, or you're going to get charges and you're going to get fired, and then some, or it doesn't really rise to the level of, so we're going to let him go back to work. He's going to be on probation. within his department. We'll review the case again if anything else comes up, whatever. So there are variations on the theme, and a lot of it depends on, what the incident was and all that. The only thing that I really question about the whole deal with Rayshard Brooks is that prior to the investigation being completed, because Georgia Bureau of Investigation, they weigh in on all officer-involved shootings.
Right.
Okay? That's going to take 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Officers on admin leave, we can secure them, sequester them, whatever you want to say, until we make a decision. But they issued charges out of Atlanta
Yeah.
prior to GBI making the call.
Okay.
And maybe GBI is going to make the same call. And so I'm not going to say that that wasn't the wrong call, because that's probably not the wrong call. Okay? I don't know. I don't have all the facts. But if the way it works in Georgia is that GBI has to make that call before the county throws charges out, why did that not happen? And that's where I say things like the political thing.
Well, because Keisha Lance Bottoms got on TV and said it had to be done. And
not her job.
Right. I understand that.
Not her call.
Right. But I understand that. But she's the mayor of the city, and she went out there.
Not her job, not her call, not her monkeys, not her circus. They should have said, this is what she wants, but until we know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we're not doing shit.
You had a question?
Is there a danger in doing that also, like in charging the guy before all the facts are coming in? Like, does it hurt their case down the line? Like,
look at Seattle.
Like, or Freddie Gray, wasn't that something that happened that they charged it too quick before all the facts and it actually botched their case?
Well, look at Seattle. Seattle was real quick when they threw Chop Up. The mayor was all about it. The police chief was like, hey, we don't really want to do this. Leave the East Precinct. Why would we leave the East Precinct? That don't make no damn sense at all. And if we leave this place, they're going to tear everything up around here. And the mayor's like, leave it, let them do what they need to do, telling the chief what to do. And, the chief is hired by the mayor. So,
Right.
Right.
And that's politics.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest issues that's going on right now is the political decisions are being made before the prudent decisions based on facts, legal status, and so forth is kicking in.
How much time we got, Quan? For real?
Uh-oh.
Can we get like a few more? Because there's two. Like, I don't think we're gonna get to I wanted to get to Ahmaud Arbery.
Maybe I'll have to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shaun and I have also had this conversation, and I think that people misunderstand this term, and I know that you are 100% against this when I say this, and it's defund the police.
Okay, so
like, to me, in Minneapolis, this is a political situation where they have to break that police union. That police union has a lot of power and a lot of crookedness, and they're paying out $2 million a year worth of abuse cases. They have to break up that police union, so they have to disband the police department. That's a 100% political move. But in most places, they're going to take money and allot the money for something different. Explain to me why the police department needs a tank, or 20, or 15, or 30, or whatever it is they have.
you mean in terms of
equipment? Like to me, when I hear defunding the police, I hear not that we're going to have less officers. I hear that they're not going to be militarized. Like, we don't need.
So just in terms of like taking more equipment and things like that away?
Right.
Okay.
And using the money for
other things, alternative programs.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to give you a question and an answer. Okay. First thing is I'm going to give you an answer. New York has a $5 billion budget. They took $1.5 billion away. And the first thing the commissioner said was no more undercovers anywhere. Okay? So that's how we'll solve the problem. No more undercovers.
But that's just political grandstanding, though, by
it's political
the commissioner.
grandstanding, but what does that do to the people that live in the area? That means that you don't have to worry about an undercover being anywhere, which means you can do whatever the hell you want, whenever you want. If you don't see a uniformed officer in a squad car or walking a beat, ain't nobody coming, right? That's insane. So defund the police. You have to break it down into what defund the police is. Okay, I'm going to give you another example with down in your neck of the woods, New Orleans. Spent a little time. Twice New Orleans. We came in and arrested everybody at the top tier in New Orleans in the police department because they're crooked as hell. And then restarted.
My brother was offered a job at the New Orleans, and he was just like, "I'm not taking this job."
And when
it's the most crooked department in the world.
And when I mean came in, I mean like we came in and arrested like everybody you could think of. It was insane, and I was part of that. There's a way to fix the problems without losing the police. You can't not say we're going to get rid of an entire police department, not to that scale. Okay, who's going to watch the city? You know, the mayor said, let them burn the place down and get it out of their system. Are you kidding me? And think about the shop owners, the businesses, all those people that lost everything, you know, and they can't call anybody because no one's going to come. Why? Because they were told not to come. So defunding the police means a lot of things. Do you need to reorganize the police department? Maybe get out the people at the top tier, put new people in, bring officers in that want to come in, you know, go through and, you know, vet every single officer that you have. And I mean, you know, hardball, you call them in and you go, listen, Dallas, do you want to work here? Yes or no? Yeah, I really do. Okay, the bullshit that you're doing, it's got to stop. Okay, comes back again, done. No pension, ass out. And we're going to bring like 300 officers in that want to transfer, you know, into Minneapolis. They got to learn the area. So that's reorganizing and reshaping. It's not, I'm going to cut 5,000 police officers and turn the city into, you know, Escape from New York or some shit.
But here's the thing, like, and I don't think, I mean, granted, some people are, but I don't think most people are saying, hey, get rid of these undercovers. I think what most people are saying is like, hey, I don't want to see tanks coming down my street that are being driven by police officers.
Okay,
like,
well, tanks,
you know what I mean?
I mean, they
Like,
can't. You know, they get, you know, a lot of people talk about militarizing the police. Okay, but again, I'll go back to the North Hollywood shootout. Okay, like 40,000 rounds were fired.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. Amazing, nobody died. Amazing, nobody, except the bad guys.
right.
Okay, they were outgunned.
40,000 rounds. Really? That's insane.
It was
That's like-
something crazy.
it was
I mean, that's
ridiculous.
insane.
The dudes had body armor and they had
right,
like,
right. I remember
yeah,
armor piercing
the whole
guns
thing.
over.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
the thing. You're taught these are the tools that you have. When the tools that you have don't do the job, okay, and I'll give you, like, this literally just happened. The 2 officers in Texas that just got killed,
yeah,
domestic, get calls for domestics all the time. 2 most dangerous things, domestic violence,
right.
car stops. 2 officers showed up, domestic violence. I don't know if they've been to that place before, but domestic violence. They show up before they can do anything. They are gunned down. They never got their guns out of their holster. They didn't have shit to do.
Right.
Nothing. Done. Okay? These things happen all the time. Then you hear, defund the police. We're going to send social workers in and do that. And I have a friend who's a social worker with one of the mitigation units in L.A., right? I think she's L.A. County. It's either L.A. City or L.A. County. Anyway, they send them in to talk to people after domestic violence instances, but it's after police have come, separated them, maybe taken somebody to jail or at least put them away, and they come in and try to deal with it. Had 2 social workers showed up yesterday instead of 2 police officers, there'd be 2 dead social workers. And I talked to my friend and I said, what do you think about this? And she's like, I will quit my job before I show up to a domestic. Why? Because people are going to die. You can't defund the police and say certain things we're not going to respond to anymore, because now bad guys know that's the case and they can do whatever the hell they want to because they know no one's going to show up. So reorganize, retrain, you know, remotivate, repatriate, whatever you want to call it, to the officers that are there. Try to weed out the good ones and the bad ones. I guarantee you, they know who's good and who's bad in every department.
Right.
You know, the
But
question is,
see,
what are they
why
gonna
are
do?
they still here though? Like, if you know,
Unions?
if I know that
Yeah,
exactly,
that's
but
that's
that's
the,
the
union.
and that's my
Legal?
right,
You know, and if
right.
you fire me, you frickin' fire me, I will sue the dog shit out of you. And not only will I sue the dog shit out of you, you know, there's 7 other officers I know that are still here that have done more than I have. And I will name them and bury you.
So
and that's what happens. You know, you get this, and then, you know, like, you're a good dude, so you screwed up, we're going to cut you some slack.
and this is
You're
the
a first
beef.
time offender, and we're going to hang you out to dry.
So how do we get the unions away from the police so that when there are bad cops, we can get rid of them? Like my wife
Unions
is
are
a
tough.
manager of a store, right? And then all her employees are union. And when she has a problem that she should just be able to fire one for, she
Yeah.
can't because of the union.
Unions
So
are
the
tough.
police is the same way.
Unions
So
are
how do we
Casinos
get
like that, too.
the police away from union
are.
where you can have bad cops who can literally wreak havoc on a community and you can't fire them because they have a multi-million-dollar union backing them?
You can fire them, but there are steps that you have to go through. The question is, and they have these conversations all the time, are we willing to go through the steps to get rid of this guy or girl, whoever, doesn't matter, person, you know, 2020.
And this is to me the ultimate Black Lives Matter question. Do the black lives in the community, do the white lives in the community, do just the human lives in the community matter enough to the heads of these police departments that they are willing to do that so that the people in the community are safe and not terrorized by these bad cops? Because if there's 3 or 4 bad cops on the force and everybody knows they're bad, but nobody will do anything because they're scared of the union, then who is good?
Well,
who are the good cops?
That's where you have your whoever's in charge, your chief or your sheriff or, commandant or whoever. That's their job to get into that. You have your internal affairs professional standards, and they got files on them, so it's not like they don't know.
Well,
and then you have to go. You got to go through the steps, and it's the police chief can go to the union rep or the union boss or whoever it is and go, "You got to get rid of this guy."
But see, that's the problem.
Now, if
this
they're
is what's not happening
doing
in Minnesota, is when the chief of police is going to the head of the head of the police union is essentially the police chief there. Like, he has more control than the police chief. And when they're going to him saying, we need this guy, Derek Chauvin, we did it on the show. He was responsible for something like 11 deaths of people over his career. And most of it was since like 2011. But the number of complaints on him was ridiculous. But he's really good friends with the guy who who's in charge of
looking up his record was just like, why wasn't this guy fired 5 years ago?
Because he's friends with the guy in the head of the union. Like,
it all comes down to, the credibility of the department and what they want to do. One of the worst things the departments hate is when the feds come in and throw oversight, because then they know everybody's head's on a platter, right? So they never want to have the feds come in and oversee your department. But if you've got a problem and the chief can't solve it, or the mayor won't let you, or a combination of the two, or maybe the guy in charge of the guy, girl, whatever, person, 2020, in charge won't let you do these things, then what's going to happen is the complaints have to get to the point where, either they're threatened with oversight, and they're like, listen, we better get rid of that dude, because if the FBI comes in and starts digging through all our freaking, bones and skeletons and stuff, they're going to find stuff we don't need them to find, or they're going to call them in to come do it, And the thing about it is that if you're running a department, integrity is key. Mm-hmm. And if the integrity in your department is trash, it's a problem. Right. And I'm going to go all the way down to the low end. When you're a new cop and you're learning how to do stuff and you're building cases and doing this, we tell you all the time, tell the truth, do your job, know the rules, know the information, make sure you do it so that you win. Because the worst thing in the world is to have a cop who's a problem cop. Mm-hmm. And everything he gets involved in, the first thing the lawyers do is go, shit, look who the arresting officer is. We go into court. And then they go, okay, settle. Right. Because you can't do anything with it. If you know you have a problem and you're not dealing with it, then that's your own culpability, and you have to deal with that. Literally one of the legal terms is constructive notice. I've given you notice. This guy, girl, person, officer is a problem. You better stick them somewhere where they're out of the public view so they can ride this out and hopefully get better, repatriate them, retrain them, do whatever, or you need to get rid of them. Well, their daddy's friends with the chief of police. Then you need to call their daddy, who's friends with the police, the chief of police, and say, get your boy out of here. Transfer him or do whatever, which is another reason why they're trying to make the case about having these, these lists of these officers, so one officer can't go from New York PD,
Minneapolis, or
LAPD to wherever, whatever, because it's like, we got to get rid of this dude because he's a problem. Well, so send him to another agency.
It was a few years ago. I can't remember the name, but it was a white female officer who shot the black guy on the side of the road, and they found her not guilty, but she was fired and literally got a job at another police force 4 miles away, like basically in the same place.
We didn't even get a chance
over.
to get that one because we're running out of time. But I don't even know how she's not guilty there with the guy standing in the middle of the street with his hands up and shoots him. Music, please, sir.
This could go on. This could go on.
Yeah, we got this conversation forever.
Thanks, Shaun, for joining us. I know you had more questions. We'll probably have a little talk before. Thank you, Eric. I'm Dallas Scott, Hollywood Huff. Please make sure you check us out on Vegas Hype Media. We are the Negro Please on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Please subscribe to our YouTube page. Thank you guys for listening. Quan, we will be back here next Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks, guys.